I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, December the 4th, brought to you in part by Specialty Risk Insurance, built from the ground up by Kevin Charleston there in Carthage, Missouri. They can definitely handle all of your insurance needs on your farm or ranch, guys. I think you'd be hard pressed to find an insurance need that they cannot handle. And for you sale barns out there, I know you've kind of been limited to what your insurance providers could handle there, but and you'd go to a lot of insurance agencies and they would just laugh or roll their eyes at all the things you need in a sale barn. They can absolutely help you from the front door of the office to the loadout chute. They can handle your livestock insurance needs, your structure, workman's comp, liability, everything you need, guys. Get a hold of them at specialtyrisk.com. More outbreaks, and we'll talk about that in here in just a second, but I want to talk about the market that happened. Of course, your futures board kind of settled down on Wednesday. Feeder cattle were only up around $2, which is nothing anymore, basically steady, you could say. Your live cattle up 50 cents to $1, so that's great that it's still on the positive side, but I mean, it's liable to cut loose at any time. It's like being in a bar with a guy that makes you nervous, just knowing he's going to start shifting tables and throwing chairs at any minute. But it's just not fun to be able to try to live with there. But we've seen no negotiated trade out of your fed cattle arena this week. Basically, there's a few sales there I mentioned on our last visit, but just a couple of hundred here and there. But on Wednesday we saw nothing. That's a good sign. They're going to dig in. They're going to want even more than the higher market that we saw after the Thanksgiving holiday last week. And so everybody knows that this fed cattle market is looking higher. And so getting kind of excited about seeing first offers and what the asking prices are. But they'll be higher on the asking prices for sure. But we saw or heard of another outbreak of new world screwworm larvae, and it's in Nuevo Leon, Mexico, less than 120 miles from the U.S.-Mexican border. Is this going to set Secretary Rawlins back further? I mean, to hear her talk the last few weeks, she's felt like she's just about to open the gate at any moment. I would assume this would set her back just a little bit farther, but not sure about that. But remember, she did say it's not if the border opens, it's when. And she's been very complimentary of the Mexican government all of a sudden about their efforts to try to restrict this. But that's getting awful close, guys. But your Southern Plains feed yards are just yearning for those cattle. I mean, they could go up and buy some of these more expensive cattle that are moving more in the Midwest and the Northern Plains. They don't want to get out in front and pay the prices it's going to take to get them. So they don't have any feedlot replacements, and they're getting pretty light on cattle, guys. I want to tell you about another disease that is getting more prevalent and more prevalent. I have to admit, I was not aware of it until a friend of mine from Kansas tipped me off about it and told me how serious it is. It's bovine theileriosis, or theileria, they're calling it. And it's more prevalent back east, but it's moving west, guys. And this is scary, scary stuff. There is no approved treatment for it. It's a hell of a lot scarier than the screwworm. I'm not sure about the spread on it, but right now it's more scary. If you guys have gotten some cattle in and you just cannot straighten them up and you haven't heard about this, there's a good chance you may have it. You think maybe it's mycoplasma you got in your cattle, some kind of strange BVD that you don't know how to deal with. But these cattle, they get gant just like any other sick one. Start looking like a sick one. You're treating them with antibiotics and stuff. Nothing works. They're not necessarily lungers. They're not breathing hard, but they just keep dwindling away. They're still eating some, but their eyes are sunk in and they just dwindle and dwindle and linger until it finally kills them. But this stuff is bad news. I tell you what, it comes from an Asian female tick that does not need a male to reproduce. And I tell you what, you get it in your cattle and it is catching. And he says it's really bad on if you're giving shots, the reuse of needles. And of course they always tell us that, don't reuse your needles. Yeah, what are you going to do, change the needle every time you need to give a vaccination or a shot? Nobody does that. But he says this is spread from the reuse of needles. And I tell you what, it's getting really, really bad around. And he says the only way you can really tell if you have it is if you start swabbing your cattle and taking blood samples and sending them in. And said the USDA will give you some relief on this if you bring it to their attention and show them the evidence that you've got it, because there is no approved treatment. So I tell you, that's what makes it scary, guys. But if this is something that's happening to you when you're trying to straighten up these cattle, look into it. A little bit lighter note or more positive note, I don't know how many of you saw that in Orange City, Iowa, they set an all-new high price record for farmland at an auction. That's where you get your high prices, is an auction. Of course, we know that. But at a live auction, they sold farmland in Orange City, Iowa for $32,000 an acre. That surpasses the previous record by over $1,000 an acre, guys. That's a big time quote there. I want to tell you about a couple of sales we've been telling you about that you sure want to check out here. The T-Heart high altitude female sale in La Garita, Colorado is on Saturday, December the 6th. It's going to be 2 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Mountain Time up there, guys. It's one of the biggest offerings of females that you'll see anywhere. They've got well over 1,000 head. Going to offer them in truckloads, but you guys can take a gate cut of 5 head or more. That makes it fair for everybody. Whatever you need there, they can help you out. But I tell you what, they've got good Sim Angus cattle there, modern type cattle. They've been raised through a PAP tested program. They're well acclimated to high elevations. If you need some high elevation cattle, you got to get on that sale. It's on DVAuction.com Saturday, December the 6th. And then the Red Dock Farms Red Hot Female Sale. This will be the last day that you can bid on those cattle. It's a time sale. You just get on there, look at the videos, look at the cattle, see what you're interested in bidding on, bid on those cattle, and then be paying attention to whenever they take those bids up, because somebody may up you there and you need to bid again. But they've got 140 or more females. They've got first calf heifer pairs. They've got spring-born weaned heifer calves that'd be replacement quality, fall-bred heifers, and yearling replacement heifers. Guys, it's down there in Belen, New Mexico. Those cattle are used to getting by on next to nothing. So be drought-proof kind of cattle there from the Sanchez family. Be sure to get on DVAuction.com and bid on that sale here today. It's your last chance. Let's talk about your board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures are up 47 cents at $218.95. February up $1.10 at $221.90. Your back months on live cattle up 75 cents to up $1.07. January feeder cattle up $1.97 at $331.85. That's still a long stretch compared to what the cash index levels are, so it needs to gain quite a bit more. It's running behind. December feeder cattle up $1.87 at $325.80. Your back months on feeder cattle up $1.87 to up $255. Look at your grains. March corn is down 6.5 cents a bushel at $443.5. January beans down 9 at $11.15 3/4. And hard red winter wheat for March down 3.5 cents a bushel at $529.5. Didn't have any negotiated direct fed cattle trade to speak of at all on Wednesday. So that's a good sign. Guys are digging their boots in. They're going to get some of that market position back, and we're going to sell try to sell the whole trade this week at the higher levels instead of last week where we had that split trade and some guys really took advantage of, and then some guys that sold late actually ended up getting more than they thought they would probably get at the beginning of last week. But we did have a couple of fat cattle auctions that were worth looking at. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota at $1,325 for their slaughter cattle auction, and the fed cattle sold $2 to $5 higher. Conventional fed cattle sell from $210 to $216. Program cattle from $212 to $226. Glacial Lakes Livestock up in Watertown, South Dakota had 950 head for their slaughter cattle auction there. Market was higher, but it had been a couple of weeks there since they had a sale, but conventional fed cattle they're selling from $207 to $212. Program cattle from $210 to $218. Big fat fed cows from $170 to $174. Box beef cutout values were mixed on Wednesday. Choice cuts down 91 cents at $363.81. Selects were up $2.34 at $353.12. Look at your slaughter through the first 3 days of the week. Your estimated cattle slaughter was 354,000. That was 15,000 less than last week. Of course, they were ramping up because they knew they were going to be closed on Thanksgiving, but also 13,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Valley Grande Ranch feeders up in Lodgepole, South Dakota, up in extreme northern South Dakota, right on the North Dakota line, guys. The Archibald brothers, they've got some pen space left for your ball and calves. They've got a world of feed up there. They've got modern facilities up there. It's storm proof. They've got redundant equipment everywhere. I mean, they've got a backup to a backup to a backup, and just whatever happens, they'll take care of it. They're not going to get in a jam, guys. And the main thing is they've got the know-how how to straighten up those ball and calves. They've got a system that they use. They've had very good luck with it, having good luck this year. If you've got some ball and calves or some thin cows or some weaned calves even, that you want to put on feed and put some pounds on, guys, that would be the place to do it at Valley Grande Ranch Feeders. For more information, go to archbro.com. Talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance, our main sponsor there. Talk about your real-time index by DVAuction. Late in the day on Wednesday, after all your sales have concluded, your real-time index based on an 800-pound cash auction steer was sitting at 341.02. That was up another 326, so it was up nearly $10 on Monday, $8 there on Tuesday, up another 326 on Wednesday. And your steer tracker, the last 25 lots that had 5 head or more that go in there, was up to 354.48 on Wednesday afternoon, so it's still rising, guys. The latest CME cash feeder cattle index always running behind, but it was up another $5 at 337.78. I want to tell you about a sale that's going to happen up in Dickinson, North Dakota. Stockman's Livestock Exchange. They're winding down on these calves, guys. Most everybody sold them. They've had no weather interruptions, but they've got another calf special there with about 3,000 head. That tell you what, there'll be mostly 2 rounds of shots and no implants, and many weaned cattle in the offering too. It's going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're going to have no weigh-ups on the sale there today at Dickinson, North Dakota. Let's talk about your big sales that happened on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, DVAuction broadcaster there, they had 4,550 head for their 2-day sale with calves on Tuesday and feeders on Wednesday. The feeder steers weighing over 750 pounds, called by Market News there, were $5 to $10 higher. Those feeders under 750 were steady. Feeder heifers were unevenly steady except for the 6-weight heifers, and they sold from $7 to $10 higher. Calves on Tuesday were 5 to 15 better, with spots as much as $30 higher. So good sale this week at El Reno, Oklahoma. talk about Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. Sometimes they just amaze you, and they did on Wednesday, guys. They had well over 3,000 head of cattle on Wednesday for their auction. The market reporter had it from 2 weeks ago, which was the last sale. He just had a call on the 7 to 8 weight steers. He called them $13 to $21 higher, but it was higher throughout. You know, some of the highest quotes, and I guess the highest quote I've ever seen. Well, I thought that was all over. I thought the market had already broke and we were on the downside. I saw one of the highest quotes I've ever seen in my life, and it's going to be your top quote for the day. But Bassett was your superior steel sales, home of superior standard livestock equipment, stick-out sale of the day. And if you look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, you'll see your best tested weights there. They had 116 4-weight steer calves in Bassett. They averaged 465 at 515.08. 902 head of the 5-weight steers averaged 561 at 482.08. There were 1,018 head of the 6-weight steer calves in Bassett, Nebraska. They averaged 642 at 442.90. 537 head of the 7-weights averaged 723 at 392.74, and 138 head of 8-weight steers averaged just 805 at 362.19. Wow. How about your heifers? 130 head of the 4-weight heifer calves averaged 456 at 428.88. 257 head of the 5-weight heifers averaged 557 at 404.07, and 66 head of the 6-weight heifers and Bassett, Nebraska averaged 663 with a weighted average price of 363.80. Give you some other impressive quotes from all around. How about Creston, Iowa? Creston Livestock Market, they advertised here on the Feeder Flash. Friends of ours there. They had the Peterson heifers. He sold 3 loads of those heifers. Yearling heifers there was 197 head of them. Weighed 881. And the average on the load was 307.25, guys, heifers. Big time quote there. Congratulations to them. How about Hardin County Stockyards in Savannah, Tennessee? You think they can't sell them southeastern yearlings when it's cold outside? They sold 211 head of 728-pound steers, bring 363.75. Wow. How about a market up in Canada? If you think they're lowballing, let's check this out. Ashern Auction Mart, that's hard to say, in Ashern, Manitoba, Canada, sold 53 steers. They're a DV auction broadcaster. Sold 53 steers, weighed 513 at 651 Canadian or 469 US. I tell you what, you cannot sneeze at that, guys. How about Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota on Wednesday at the feeder cattle auction? Sold 115 steers, weighed 1021 at 330. But this is a humdinger. I tell you what, the biggest, most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, and the biggest one I've seen for a long time, and I didn't think I'd see anything like this again. And your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Bassett Livestock Auction. It was 225 steers, weighed 622 at $5 a pound. Now, if you were going to put those on feed, they're costing $31.10 a head already. If you're going to put them on feed right now, they would break even around $2.80. Likely this guy's going to turn those. He's going to slow grow them, turn them out on grass, cheapen them back up, make real fancy fed cattle of them later this year, guys. But that's a big time quote. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.